you've been there for every era. Hogan, Undertaker, Austin. Who is most over out of all those guys?
Man, see, yeah, I know this is a tough call because when you look at guys like Taker, when you heard the gong, you look at if you smell when you hear Rock's music, even Cena, you know, but Stone Cold, there's something about Stone Cold because you got that massive pop right out of the get-go when people recognize that music, but it was a sustained pop. You know, you heard that original pop, and then when he came out, it was just something else. There was a different aura from that audience that because he wasn't your traditional babyface, obviously. He was a kick-ass babyface, but he had this edge to him that was different from everybody else. And Dusty Rhodes was the common man,
Right.
but Steve was really just your everyday ass kicking, beer drinking
Yeah.
redneck, some bitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for some reason, that people just absolutely loved it, and no matter how much they tried to turn him heel, just wasn't happening. They weren't
Right.
buying it. They wouldn't accept it. So in a close call, I'd have to say Steve.
You mentioned Steve and his the pop. I worked the Raw before the SummerSlam that he got dropped on his head,
Ooh,
and it was
yeah.
I was the match after all. It was Austin and Dude Love versus the Godwins in a tag match. So I'm standing in Gorilla, and remember the old metal, like the metal ramp
Yes.
for Raw. So I'm standing there, and when his music hit, my legs were shaking like this because the ramp was actually moving. Like if I
Hmm.
was deaf, I could have felt the pop when
Hmm.
Austin's music hit. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable. I'm getting the
Yeah.
hair on my arms are standing up right now just thinking about it. That pop
Yeah.
was just unbelievable.
It was an incredible era. We were blessed at that time to have the problem of having so many over guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not that
Yeah.
it's a problem, but you know what I mean because
Right.
who's your top guy when you have Rock, you have Austin, you have
Yeah.
Cena, you have Taker. y-
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Crazy. Before we go, can I mention some guys from the eras that you were a ref for? You can
Mhm.
just tell me the first thing that comes to your head. It could be one word. It could be as long as you want, but just
Sure.
I'll just awesome. Hogan.
Hogan. Um, the, started everything off. Started this whole era. I know I'm going to give a long-winded answer here a little bit, but people hate the term sports entertainment, but sports entertainment made wrestling mainstream, and
Yeah.
Hogan was the guy who did that.
Undertaker.
Taker, the boss. He was our locker room leader.
Bret Hart.
Uh, Probably the best technical wrestler I had the privilege of working with.
The Rock.
Charisma. He just oozed it no matter what he did.
Macho Man.
Macho, Macho, intensity. He, he, he always had that intensity about him. Yes.
Bobby Heenan.
Bobby Heenan, uh, hilarious. Hilarious. I'll laugh a minute. Let's put it that way.
Gorilla.
I love him. Like a dad. Gorilla was
Yeah.
like a dad.
Yeah. I would love to have met Gorilla. I just as a fan, I met him. Never as as a wrestler.
Hmm.
Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels, then or now? Yeah.
Then.
Then, uh, great, but he knew it a little too
Hmm.
much.
Now.
Uh, Great and humble.
Triple H.
Triple H, just encyclopedia of knowledge for the business. Not history. I'm talking about the actual business and what he's doing.
Right. Mr. Fuji.
Uh, Talk about Rivers, big time River.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Cena.
John, one of the most dedicated guys I've ever seen.
Ultimate Warrior.
Uh, he was nice to me. I have no issues with him, but man, that's a tough one. I don't know. I might have to come back to that one. I have to think a little bit.
Andre.
Andre, uh, the he was the boss, the real boss. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If he liked you, then you were golden.
So where can people find you, Jimmy?
Well, you can find me on, of course, social media. I still call it Twitter at Jimmy Korderas, on Instagram at Real Jimmy Korderas. I do a podcast weekly with some other referees and former referees, Brian Hebner and Daniel Spencer, who's currently the head referee at TNA, called Reffing It Up. And I got to give a shout out to RJ, who's our producer, because if it wasn't for him, we'd be clueless. But anyways, what could we do? We only know how to count to three. And also here in Canada, I do a radio show on TSN Radio and iHeartRadio with Donnie De Silva, who's a well-known wrestling personality here in Canada, called Huge Pop Radio. And, we do a weekly radio show. It's an hour long on linear radio, but the website, hugepopradio.com, you can catch the full version because we do interviews with current and past superstars. And you can only play, because it is radio, you can only play like a 12-minute clip from it. And a lot of times these interviews will be an hour and a bit. And wrote a book a little while back called The Three Count: My Life in Stripes as a WWE referee. I think it's still available out there on Amazon or wherever you find books. And